Hello everyone, this is Mr. Navratil here. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the next part in our Onshape series, this one being called the Auger. We're actually going to be using a new tool in this part so that we're able to create kind of this helix shape around a cylindrical object. You would commonly see this in a screw, or in this case kind of like an auger bit. So we're going to jump right into things. We're going to go to Onshape, and as always, we're going to hit Create and then Document in the top left, and we're going to go ahead and name this Auger, and we'll hit Create, and we'll just give it a second for our program to load up. So our first step is just creating the cylinder itself that has this helix around it. So for us, we're going to simply hit Sketch in the top left as we normally do. We're going to go ahead and click on our front plane here, and we're going to change the view on our view cube to front. We're then just going to simply use the circle tool, and we'll start in the origin. We'll come out, and then as always, we're going to make these things exactly the correct size. So we're going to come up and find the dimension tool here. We will click on the outside of the circle. Click once, come out again, and click again. We are then going to make the diameter of this circle 4, and I will hit Enter. So pretty simple for the cylinder. That's actually all we need to do. So at this point, we're done with the sketch. As always, when you've completed a sketch, you're going to come up and hit the green check mark. Now from here, it would be helpful for us to look at this in an isometric view. In other words, we should come to the view cube here and click on the corner. That way we can kind of see what's going on. So to create the cylinder, all we need to do now is extrude this circle that we drew. So the extrude tool right next to sketch up here in the top left, we're going to click on that. We're going to click on the circle that we drew. And again, we're using the exact dimensions for this. So we're simply going to come to where it says depth, and we're going to change that number to 20 inches. I'll hit Enter, zoom out a little bit and move it over, and then I can go ahead and hit the green check mark. So there we have it. We have the cylinder that goes inside of this helix, or this coil. Now the next step is to draw what we would consider a profile, a piece that the program can recognize so that it can actually wrap that profile or that shape that we draw around the auger itself. So for our document, we are going to want to utilize these planes that are already made for us. There are ways of making our own custom planes, so we can draw anywhere we'd like on the document, but for our purposes, there is one already in the middle, right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Sketch. Now if you had clicked on the front view originally, that's good, because then we're left with our right plane view here. So I am simply going to click on the right plane, and now we have basically a digital piece of paper that is going through the middle of our cylinder, which is what we want. So then we'll hit the right side of our view cube, and from here we need to tell the program that we would like to use these lines. Now again, we're only looking at half of it technically. Half of it is on one side of our piece of paper, and the other half's on the other side. So to utilize these lines, we have used this tool before. We're going to come up and we are going to find this. It's called the Use tool, in other words, project or convert. So it just looks like a little cube with a little line on it. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to come down and we are going to click on these lines, the outside of the cylinder. So one here, one here, one here, and one here. And again, all that's done is it's just created some of these lines that we're able to then utilize in the drawing. So from this point, once we've projected and used the Use tool on the 4 lines, we're going to want to make this profile. Now going back to our original part here, if we double click on Sketch, we can see what had been previously done. We're basically just going to make this tiny little rectangle, but again, very specifically size. So 0.5 inches tall, 0.25 inches wide, and it's going to be 1.75 away from the edge. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use the rectangle tool here. We're going to start our drawing on this line, but it doesn't have to be specifically placed this way because we're going to use the dimension tool to make that perfect. So we'll hit the dimension tool. Let's start with the distance. So I'm going to click on this line and this part of the triangle and come up. And again, that was 1.75 inches. From here, we want to make sure that the rectangle is the correct height. So if we're going to click on this dot and this dot, we're going to come over to the left, and we're going to change that to 0.5. And then finally, we are going to change the dimension between here and here, so the width. So this dot, and that should give us the 0.25 that we're looking for. So there's the profile that we're going to use to create our helix. Now we're actually done drawing here because the next step is going to be in 3D modeling mode. So for us, we're going to come and we're going to hit the green check mark. We can change our view to the isometric view here to make this a little bit easier. The next step is going to be creating a path along this cylinder so the program knows where to take this profile, in other words, the rectangle we drew, and follow it along the outside of the cylinder. So to do that, it's very, very simple. We're going to come up and we're going to find a new tool called the helix tool. It's here, kind of just looks like a coil or a spring. We're going to click on that, and it's just going to ask us very simply, what are we trying to create a helix around? So for us, all we need to do is click on the cylinder itself. Now you can change, you can see the paths that it's creating here for us. You can change many, many things about this path. It's currently, by default, it's set at 4. We could make it so that there's only 2 of those path lines. We could make it so that there's 10, so on and so forth. You can even create start angle degrees, and we can even choose if we'd like to then look at the pitch or the height and the turns. These are all very important things if you were trying to create, let's say, a screw that you'd use for woodworking, and you'd be able to change all of those parameters. For us and our purposes, we're just kind of getting introduced to this tool, so we're going to leave it at turns, and we're actually going to create 8 of these turns. So I'm going to hit enter, so you can see there's now 8 of the revolutions around it, and then we're going to hit the green check mark. Our last step here is to utilize the sweep tool. So what we'd like to do is tell Onshape that we want our profile, in other words, this little rectangle, to be extruded kind of in a curve fashion around the helix that we created. So it's very easy and simple to do that. We're going to come up and we're going to find the sweep tool here. Kind of looks like a little pipe. We're going to click on that. Now it's asking us, first off, what would you like to sweep? In other words, what would you like to extrude? And we're simply going to click on the rectangle. Now what it's asking for is, where would you like to sweep or extrude that profile around? So I'm going to click on the sweep path here, and I'm going to tell the program we'd like to sweep it around this helix. Now there are many, many different options that you can do with the sweep tool. We could instead try and remove that material from the inside, and that would create kind of an inside auger, but we're looking to add it on the outside. So we'll click add, and then we will hit the green check mark. So it is at that point that you have officially created an auger in Onshape.